Hello, thanks for listening to the Finance Leadership Podcast. It's the latest update and news about the Finance Leadership Programme. It's produced by AICPA and CIMA, together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. You can find out more at aicpa-cima.com. As usual, I listen to myself, Kevin Gormley, and today I'm joined by candidates and qualified members. There's a mix today on the show. And they're all joining me from a very warm South Africa today. So I'd like to welcome the guys that are joining us today.
My name is Stewardt Cornelissen. I work for a company called Service. It's based in Paarl, and we sort of regulate the wine industry of South Africa. If you ever drink wine in South Africa, you would see the certified seal that's on the top of the bottle. So we issue those seals on behalf of the Wine and Spirits Board. There's a lot of stuff you need to do on your wine farm to get that seal, but that's primarily our job here at Service.
All right, so that's a little hologrammatic sticker that goes over the cork on both sides?
Not directly on the cork, but there's first a layer, it's like a metal layer, and then that seal is on top of it.
Oh, very good. I'm a big fan of wine, so I'm bound to have CIMAs, and I think I have some South African wine in the fridge. I must look at it.
You'll see the certified seal on that wine.
All right, great. That's good. It's good to know. The second person joining in no particular order today is Matthew Payze. Hi, Matthew.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I appreciate being a part of your podcast. I'm the financial manager for MDS Delivery, a career company out here in South Africa. We've got 9 branches nationwide and quite heavily involved with a lot of our big e-commerce and medical fields in and around South Africa.
Okay, great. Thank you, Matthew. I'm going to ask some questions about your experiences. I suppose that one of the most fundamental ones I always ask any student that's former student and now a member that went through the Finance Leadership Programme. What was your reason for CGMA? Did you have a choice of professional qualifications that you were looking at the time? So I'll maybe ask Matthew that question first.
It was just about a year out of COVID or so. I was kind of waiting to look at, what can I do in my organization within the finance side of things? CA is obviously always the big goal, but it never really attracted me. And when I started doing a little bit of research into what kind of other options were out there, CGMA really just spoke to me. The ability to walk into any business and be able to tell a story about certain situations and be able to help senior management guide in between what's happening, not only within their company, but also outside, to be able to look at those other external factors. That was a very big key thing for me. So I think that was my primary thing for going towards the CGMA route.
Okay, and Stuart, what was your main driver for studying for the CGMA?
So when I shared this once, it was almost like it's a taboo topic. So what happened was I had a store, right? So it's called Funny Car. The whole franchise closed down, and then I sort of thought I had all that energy that I managed to put into that store, right? So it closed down. I know a lot of people don't like auditing. So my biggest thing is still to get back into auditing and then qualify as an RA. And then CICA came out and said they're doing this whole conversion thing with CGMA. And I thought, I have articles, CICA signed off articles, but I never did the first IPC. So for me to go and study full honors and then do ITC and then do APC, it would have taken me 3-4 years to get ready to pass ITC for the first time. So I thought, let me try CGMA. Let me pass CGMA so that I have that qualification, right? I'm trying to get signed off as an RA at the moment.
Right. So IBTC, for the listeners, and is one of the tuition partners in South Africa that teach the CGMA qualification.
Yes.
So your plan is to get a number of professional qualifications so you have that flexibility and you can go different routes?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, understand. And was there a decision to be made around FLP for you, Stuart? Or was it the Finance Leadership Program was the only route that you would follow, or were you considering doing the other pathway?
So I was advised by IBTC. So I started at management level because I have all those years of all those years of experience, and I had a previous qualification. So I managed to start at management level. So I don't know the other route, right? So they said it's advisable if you start at management level, try and do the FLP so that you don't have to pass the objective testing, if I'm correct. I hope I'm speaking the correct terms here.
Yeah, you are correct. Yeah.
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 So because I didn't have experience of objective testing prior, they advised me to do FLP.
Okay. And Matthew, were you in the same wavelength there with the reasoning, or maybe you're not aware of the other pathway either?
No, so I had done through my research, came across originally the normal route for CGMA, and then discovered the FLP route because I'd also gone through IBTC to do my CGMA. So I first done, discovered the original route, looked at it, and then saw the FLP and found it to be a hell of a lot more flexible in terms of the fact that one would have access to all three levels instead of having to kind of go through each one by one. Yeah, and then obviously at the same time, instead of having all those objective tests like what Stuart mentioned, you only had three major exams, being the case studies, and then you were, upon your practical experience, submission being done and dusted. So for me personally, it just seems a far stress-free route. A lot less hurdles to kind of worry about throughout the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's fairly common. And jumping into some of the study techniques and the way you studied, how you planned your study, did you have any mindset or experience in doing these type of exams before? And if not, how did you approach these exams?
So from my side, it was more, a lot of the university testing for me personally was a lot more objective. So coming into and dealing with a lot more practical experience, a lot more case study examples being used, I actually really, I'll be honest with you, I thrived in it purely because I could relate more to it. But and that was kind of my technique throughout for most of the study, was saying, okay, how can I relate this to my professional life right now? And, being a part of a career industry, you've got 300 employees, things like your KPI and employee management, your KPIs, budgeting, all those type of items. I really was able to relate to my current working environment, and I found it a lot more easier. And in instances where, it was the stuff like, for example, your F3 pillar for the business valuation specifically, there was a reason that was part of what I did within the company. However, through a little bit of extra research, a bit of imagination, and I was able to kind of picture myself in a situation where something like that was required within my company, and being able to bring that relation to it. In terms of the actual plan, studying times, I typically put about 10 hours roughly a week. With a few obviously extra hours as we got closer to the case study exams.
And yourself, Stuart, did you have any models of study or anything you can share?
So what I did was, you get like, say, if you get 20 topics per module, and then I would tell myself I would need to do 4 a day. If it takes me 5 hours, I would complete it in 5 hours. If it takes me 1 hour, I would complete it in 1 hour. So I never went over the allotted amount of topics that I would send out for one specific day. But I would also not complete it if it takes me long. One is small. There was one that was probably 3 pages long, and then you get another one that's 50 pages long. So I divided it up on the allotted days. And then I would actually sit and complete, like I said, if I have 4 for today, I would complete those 4 no matter the time needed to spend on it.
Yeah, okay. I've actually never heard of that model before, because most of the students I've ever spoken to have defined, a period of time. I'm going to study for 3 hours a day or 2 hours a day, whatever. 10 hours per week. And they do the 10 hours regardless of the number of topics, but you're working on the principle of averages.
So we had this conversation in IBTC as well. So there was a call, and I think we were like 5 people. And I was again the only person that did it like that. You do your 4 per day, you do your 5 per day, and that's it.
So you're very self-disciplined. No, you must be, because when you get into some of the management accounting or some of the complex financial modules, some of those topics are huge.
And some of them does take very long. But it worked for me. I managed to complete everything. I managed to pass everything. So it worked for me in that way.
Whatever works for you is the ultimate goal, and everyone does approach study differently, but it has to work for the individual. That's fundamental. So that's interesting actually to hear that. That might be of use to some of our students. And Stuart, when you were preparing for the case study exams, was it a similar type of approach? There's a couple of things here. How soon before the case study exam did you start studying? And what type of approach?
So everything was centered around having your modules done before then, and then mock exams, those mock exam classes. And I think our lecturer, he gave us more or less of a structured timeline as to when you need to have everything done. And then again, if they say you need to have this done by that specific time, I will do it by that specific time. If it takes me 10 hours, if it takes me 3 hours, I would only set out a certain amount of work, certain amount of topics to study, and I would try to complete it before going to sleep or whatever.
So you sat mock exams before setting the actual case study?
Yeah, if it's the same thing that we're talking about.
Oh yeah.
I know we did 2 mock exams if it's the same thing.
Right. And then the mock exams were fundamental to passing.
Yeah.
They're very important, and it's fundamental that students sit mock exams. We've analysed a lot of that.
And I would highly recommend doing them.
Yeah. And Matthew, yourself, did you have a similar approach? Or?
Yeah, I would say it was fairly similar. I think, the moment the pre-C comes out, it's, I was also lucky enough to be part of those exam classes, and we would go through the likes of the blueprints, and we would do multiple of the mock exams that IBTC themselves had put together relating to the pre-scene, and even like in my own free time, looking in preparation, looking at the little book of secrets that CGMA have on their website. And oddly enough, when it came to my strategic case study exam, you had done an episode on it just about a week or two just before we were writing. So actually, quite a bit of extra insights also in terms of SafeWell.
Oh, SafeWell.
Just from the podcast. So I think there's a lot of resources that were out there to be able to prepare it. So I think as a whole, I think I've done about 3 to 5 mock exams in preparation.
Uh-huh.
I think three that were marked by IBTC and provided feedback, and then 2 additional which I had taken from the CIMA website, where I then self-marked and to kind of critique myself in preparation, that by the time I would be walking into the interview, and I felt like I was clocking into work.
That's good. And did you have any setbacks when you studied? Like sometimes people have personal or professional or study setbacks, or was it all?
The day I wrote my operational exam, unfortunately, my grandmother had passed away from cancer that day.
Oh dear. I'm sorry.
It put a little bit of a damper on the thought process around studying. You go about focusing so much, and so much can happen around you. So it kind of hindered a little bit in terms of my progress for management, but management sort seemed to fly by before I knew it. Otherwise, it was more around that personal stress, making sure, you want to get through this. And sometimes you get that writer's block where you study for so many hours, and then when it comes to testing yourself, you remember nothing. And it's those frustrations that sometimes you just got to give yourself a bit of a breather and say, okay, maybe I need a 30-minute break, come back to the question.
Yeah. There's such a volume of information to remember, and tools and techniques and formulas, etc. So, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, and I think also, you thinking about so many different possibilities on how you can answer it. That's the nice thing about CGMA was the fact that there's no one straight answer for a question. It all comes down to how you go about it.
That's the art of management accounting.
Yeah,
it's
100%.
there is a certain level of subjectivity in how you solve a problem, and some businesses do it certain ways, others do it another. So. And what about you, Stuart? Did you have any big challenges during your study, or was it all very straightforward?
So our work is very, I won't say simple, but straight line. So I couldn't use personal experience in a lot of those things. Like Matthew just said, you could relate to certain things, right? So we've got a system, everything is in that system. We've got reports that you're pulling from here, you're pulling from there. There's never something out of sort, right? If it's the correct way of explaining that. And it's still difficult to translate CGMA and how the strategic and management level, how you can apply that within the current role that I'm sitting at, right? So I never had that experience of combining the two together, right? As soon as you start studying, as soon as you do the first exam or the first mock exam, that's the first time. Remember, if you're doing the FLP, it's like multiple choice. You do this, you do that, you do that. It still seems fairly objective, or it still seems fairly technical until you get to that first mock exam, basically. That's where you see, right? So that was probably the biggest obstacle to overcome is translating your technical knowledge into a story, into explaining it into a story.
Yes. So it's just a case really Matthew had a much more suited job to practically using what he's learning on an ongoing basis compared to yourself.
Yeah. The one guy that was studying strategic level with us, he was an MD at a very big corporation. They do forex, they do import, export. And the way that he could actually incorporate the strategic level and everything that we were studying at that time, the way that he could give us practical examples of those things, it was crazy. And I thought, why is this guy studying? He's already at that top level of a position, but yeah, we don't know why he wanted the CGMA. Maybe he wanted something different.
But he probably had no certification or designation. That's quite often the case that you get very experienced people, but they don't have the qualification, which is fundamental.
Yeah, maybe it was something like that, yeah. We were all starstruck as to, listen, this man knows everything already, but he is in the same class with us.
I suppose that's helpful in a cohort-based environment where you can learn from each other as well.
Yeah.
That's one of the benefits of tuition providers in that capacity. So you've passed all your exams, you've got past your practical experience, you're now qualified. Has there been a lot that you've learned that you've applied in your job currently?
So like I said, currently no. Everything is so structured here by us, and that's probably why I needed qualification. So I don't have issues with the earnings here that we get. It's a very good salary. But when you get to that space where some people are talking about Power BI and some people are talking about this, and then you are sitting here, you're dealing with farmers that still write on a piece of paper that you have to process.
Right, yes.
And you try and step out of that. That is one of the reasons for studying CGMA, to maybe try and do something different.
Yes, yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
But by us, everything is. This is the way. There's the accounting program, there's that accounting program. So we don't really use strategic level. Like I said, I couldn't do it then. I probably can't do it now on that level.
So, but your plan is to use what you've learned in the future to change industries or do something different because of the breadth of the qualification?
The goal is to do something different, yeah.
Okay. And Matthew, I probably know the answer, but it sounds like you've applied a lot because of the industry that you work in.
Yeah, it's. I think I've had a lot of flexibility with. We are technology driven our sides, making sure weights and dimensions of parcels are correct, and making sure driver efficiencies are up, and a lot of cost centers, the different branches all over South Africa. So a lot of the stuff that I've come to learn from from CGMA have really come into use in my job. I found a major passion for the likes of Excel and developing, putting together KPIs, putting together dashboards and such for not even stakeholders, your managers, branch managers, to understand, what is that picture of what's happening within their environment, so they're aware and decisions can be made. And I can understand you from Stewart's side, that can be really frustrating when you've learned this and you can see possibly how certain things can benefit, but we are in a lot of industries within South Africa, a lot of it is still very much stuck in the olden times because that's what they know and that's what they've used for years and years. And people are not keen on change, because of people worry about jobs and people worry about the impact that technology will have. But it's really provided such incredible insight for many industries, much like ours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fear of jobs going and being replaced by tech. It's largely been overblown in many sectors I've found, and technology's been more so of an enabler to move the current job that you have to a higher plane and higher value, rather than replace what you do, essentially, and put you out of a job. That's been my experience to date. Yes, there is reductions, but they're not at the scale where the media has articulated it. AI may be different, but it's nowhere near that stage as yet.
Yeah. When I started at the company, oddly enough, my head of IT, him and I are actually very, very good friends nowadays. When I was introduced to him, he said he plans to replace me with the system. But here I am 5 years later, I'm still here. So a lot of the stuff we have has been automated through the power of technology, and we are looking future that's to incorporate AI. But to have someone physically look and understand the numbers and tell that important story of what's happening, AI has then got that certain limited capabilities, and I think having that personal understanding will never be replaced.
No. I mean, we're a long way from a machine being able to convince or articulate a message or bring people on a journey, a vision, a strategy, etc. I mean, that's just still largely in the future, and that's the importance of a management accountant. Finally, the last thing, Matthew, is there any pieces of advice you give anyone who's starting a journey? Any final thoughts?
Yes, my piece of advice for me is make sure you've got a strong support system, whether it be from an institution. I was lucky enough, my fiance was studying to do her CTA. So many of the late nights, we'd be kind of pushing each other to get through this certain number of topics or get through those additional hours of studying where necessary. And truly both succeeded. And truly, I wouldn't have been able to pass all my exams the first time had it not been for her. So yeah, a strong support structure is always important, that you can go to and say, listen, I need a bit of feedback in terms of X, Y, and Z. And I think for anyone who is starting the journey, back yourself. You're taking a very exciting path that's going to open some incredible doors for you. And I think you've really just got to back yourself and enjoy the ride.
Great, thanks. Matthew, Stuart, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
I can fully agree or concur what Matt is saying on the support system. So remember in the beginning, I said I would take 4 topics. Now, on days that it would take me longer to complete those topics, you need to have an understanding partner or an understanding family as to you won't be able to do certain things on certain days, and you won't have the same amount of time to spend with him as other days. And luckily or fortunately, I have that support system at home. And then I can also commend IBTC for their support. Claire was our coordinator, and Claire would send you WhatsApps during the day. Listen, how's this going? How's that going? That was major for me to have somebody check in on you. We would have like weekly calls just to check in. How are you doing? How are you coping? And then also what worked for me was I had a friend, or he's now a friend. He was then just another student. And then you need to tell a story, right? So then we would make up stories on the case study and we would tell it to each other. Like, I know it's wrong to do that, but we would anticipate a certain question. I would tell my story to him. He would tell his story to me. And that was a very good thing for us to do.
Thank you, Stuart. That's useful. I'd like to thank you both for taking the time out of your no doubt busy day and let you get back to your working day. So thanks again for contributing today. It's much appreciated. Thanks again to Matthew and to Stuart, and thank you for listening. If you found a colleague who would use this information or value the information or listen to the advice that our guests have given today, please share it with your networks. You'll see the sharing buttons on the podcast app. There's plenty more on this episode to explore in the show notes. To view them, just click on the episode's info icon in the podcast app on your smartphone or tablet, or open the episode in your computer's web browser. For more information, you can either go to AICPA-CIMA.com or enroll.cgma.org. That's it for now. We'll have another episode available next month. Thank you. Goodbye.
This content is designed to provide illustrative information with respect to the subject matter covered and does not represent an official opinion or position of the AICPA, the Association, or CIMA. It is provided with the understanding that they are not engaged in offering legal, accounting, or other professional services. If such advice or expert assistance is required, the services of a competent professional person should be sought. The AICPA, the Association, and CIMA make no representations, warranties, or guarantees as to, and assume no responsibility for, the content or application of the material contained herein, and especially disclaim all liability for any damages arising out of the use of, reference to, or reliance on such material.